Testing, testing, testing. JB here, JB here. Hopefully it's working now. December 27th, 2021. We have 1 hour and 4 days left in the 2021 trading year. It's been quite interesting. Haven't been on audio lately, and some of the reason I need to have conviction in names, right, and get excited about uh, positions I am in, and I haven't been in too many because I think when I trade options, I need to have pretty high conviction. Otherwise, I'm going to sell early or I'm going to lock in a loss early, and that usually does not work out too well. So we'll have to see how 2022 plays out. I've made some comparisons, especially the last couple of weeks, where this kind of reminds me of 2018. The fourth quarter 2018 was just disastrous. I think the market 20% or so. December 24th, Christmas Eve, it was a half day. I think the market closed down like 3%. Everybody, spent their Christmas all worried what was going to happen. Sure enough, that was the bottom. It's similar here. I wouldn't say similar because obviously we're at all-time highs, but it was like you take a look at a lot of these names that have sold off and 20, 30%, 40%. There's so many names that just destroyed. And whether that's profit taking, people worried about the rising rates, inflation, whatever that whole story is, maybe people think that some names have gone too far too fast. It's a whole mix of things. Of course, I'll throw the variants, COVID, all that other fun stuff in, but just interesting. And then those names that you think would bounce back have not. I was looking at Roku. I missed that move when Disney, not Disney, when Roku and YouTube announced their deal. What did I miss before that? Was DocuSign? Gosh, I was looking at it. Not that I don't like the DocuSign story, because the future is paperless transactions where people can create whether it be a lawyer document or whatever the case may be. That's all going to be digital, and most of it is already. And DocuSign's ruling that market. No, there's competitive concerns with Adobe, but I missed that too. And then on the flip side, waiting for some of these bounces. At some point you have to think some of these names are going to squeeze, and it's just been tough. FUBO was the last one, so 2 Fridays ago, get those calls. Sure enough, on Saturday they announced that Disney's pulling out of YouTube TV. They couldn't reach a deal. All these folks, you take a look at the FinTwit and all these other platforms talking about possibly switching over to FUBO and trying to FUBO free trial, which made sense because all the bowl games they're broadcast on a lot of the ESPN networks channels. So, well, if you can't get ESPN on YouTube TV, you got to go somewhere else. And FUBO, especially the people on YouTube TV are probably used to using a streaming platform. There's FUBO. And I'm surprised it didn't rally much the following Monday. You have to think a lot of folks were exposed to that, the content. Most people, when you hear about FUBO, when you first hear about it, you're like, what is FUBO? That's a TV provider? That makes no sense. But once you get exposed to it, then you kind of understand it. There's issues. They don't have the Turner network, so I think I don't watch Turner too much, so it's not one of those things that are going to persuade me from getting off FUBO TV. But yeah, was it within hours? I got the email Sunday, so it was Friday. What was it? Friday night. There was I forget when that email first came out. Then it was Sunday, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I got an email. Actually, when you logged into YouTube TV, it had a window that came up and said, we have resolved the deal with Disney effective right now. You're still going to get your $15 credit. But needless to say, I'm not going to sit there and say FUBO is going to eat YouTube TV or Hulu Live or any other, cable providers, which, obviously is the bigger competition out there. I don't think they're going to eat their lunch. But with the World Cup coming, with folks being more exposed and more open to cutting cords and just being completely digital, and not having to worry about a box on your TV or, most times Samsung, they have the FUBO TV app already built in, so you don't have to do anything to, you don't have to, no cable wires, no, Wi-Fi cables or whatever, USB, no dongles to put into your TV, the Fire Stick or whatever you call it, Chromecast, all those fun little gadgets. You don't have to do that. So this kind of the thought process in regards to FUBO. I'm sure they're going to have a huge subscriber ad, but it seems like it's just like some of these other names like Roku. It just can't. Once it gets going, it did it on Thursday, and then there's no follow through today. So it's kind of disappointing. So I'm not going to sit here and add some strikes. I have the 20s that expire this week. I'll probably look to add something before the end of the week on FUBO. So that's kind of the thought process there on FUBO. So that's my rant there. Let me talk about ticker DOGZ, Dogness. Just a name. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's how I'll pronounce it for now. Not name that I've never heard of before till last week. It kind of came up on some kind of scan that I'm doing for my top 5 stock webinar. Saw some posts too on some of the other forums and FinTwit, StockTwits, things like that. I put it on the watch list this morning. It's kind of like a hybrid between Chewy, and I wouldn't even say Chewy because they don't sell pet food, and they're not a e-commerce platform to sell pet supplies. They make pet supplies, leashes, harnesses. I'm trying to think of some of the other just mainstream products they make, and then they also are doing some tech-based products, right? I forget how you call them. Trying to think of the best word to give them, but needless to say, they have smart water feeders so that you don't worry about your pet's bowl getting dry. They do they have a robot video system. I'm trying to think exactly how that one works, and also with the treats. So you're not home, you can shoot out the treats to your pet. So that's kind of where their niche is, and I think they're really growing. It's not like they're a small little company. They're in all the big names, especially in the U.S. So Costco's, PetSmart's, Target, Target.com. I'm trying to think. Home Depot, Lowe's. The issue lies with dogs. I wouldn't even call it the issue. Probably the reason I haven't heard about it is because it's a China-based company, been around since I think it's 2003. Let's see, I'm trying to find out So founded in 2003, and it's finally, I guess, gaining momentum, growing revenues despite COVID recently, and I think there's an opportunity for it to kind of get some FOMO. People start finding it just like I did, and then say, "Wow, this interesting story." Trades into the 740 right now. Starts to gain momentum, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there. I think that's a possibility, if not higher. So the negatives here, of course, China ADR. A lot of those companies are very easy to pick holes in. So some short firm or whatever comes out with some piece, like they always do on some of these China names, and blow it up. I don't know if they're going to go after DOGZ, but it's certainly a possibility. And trades 10 times revenue. So people can certainly look at that and say, "Wow, it's expensive." But I think if you take a look at what they're doing, take a look at the pet sector as a whole, I think there's an opportunity for it to trade decently higher. So hey, maybe get some FOMO, goes to 15 or $20. Who knows? So that's that. That's DOGZ. What else was I gonna? Let's see what else. DraftKings, right? So crazy. I mean, DraftKings, you take a look at the betting sector as a whole and the gambling sector. I mean, there's all these markets going to start opening up over the course of the next 6 to 12 months. And DraftKings is front and center. They've already done the legwork. Every Sunday you watch football or any sporting event, you see they're loaded on driving marketing, getting people into their brand. And you have to think at some point this starts to reverse course. $65, right? I think they bought that. They had a news that they were going to buy that company that got nixed, and that was kind of the top. Let's see. I'm trying to see where that was. $65 back in the middle of September. So I mean, over a 50% just pretty much chopped the company in half based on really nothing outside of competitive concerns. And then people look and say, well, COVID restrictions might hurt gambling. Well, that benefits directly right to DraftKings' bottom line. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. But I think I flipped some calls 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago on DraftKings. I'll continue to look for that one to play for a bounce, especially into next year. At one point, the chart was pinching the most I've seen a chart pinch in quite some time, which usually precedes a huge reversal. So certainly a name I'll revisit. So I'm doing my top 5 stocks for 2022 research. It takes some time to do some scans. And similar to 2018, right now when I do some scans, I do my normal, find a stock that's growing, XX 25, 30% year over year in revenues. Maybe it has a high short interest because I kind of like the high short interest names because sometimes I think people, take advantage or maybe they don't understand the name or things like that. But in 2018, all the stocks had sold off 30%, 40%, 50%. So when you do a scan, all these names would come up. And it's a similar thing now here in 2021 because all these names that have sold off in the last, in the third and fourth quarter of this year, it's very hard to find names outside the box that I normally don't follow. So hopefully I can find some. I have a list already that I put together. Don't be surprised if you see me add some strikes on a name that you've never heard of before. Some things I'm looking at, and you have to think that the biotech sector, which has been destroyed outside of COVID names, has to come back at some point. VRTX, which God, I used to trade that much higher than where it is now, is one of those names you look and say, hey, maybe that's a sign that we're back to bio in 2022. So that might be a theme I might be looking at to try to find a couple of the bio names. Zyme, which the start of last year was all about gene editing, right? So you had CRISPR, Beam, Edit, all those names just were on fire, similar to the 3D sector to start last year. I'm sure those are going to catch fire at some point, but I have to think some of the more traditional names in the biospace are probably going to catch fire, and maybe some M&A. So that's kind of the things I've been looking at last couple of weeks. Obviously, DraftKings. I forgot to say with DraftKings, you have the NFT space, and I think NFT space went from obscurity to everybody on board in such a short period of time that I think people start to overlook. It went too far to one end. So I think as people become more comfortable with that space and how it works and how to list things or whatever it is and why it makes sense or doesn't make sense, I think that bodes well for DraftKings and some of the partnerships they've already made with some celebrities and yeah. Oh, IQV. Yeah, how am I missing? So I'm trying to think there's another one of those anyway, so my back half of 2021 names, the Joint, obviously, HSKA. HSK had a short piece come out on it, but didn't really do too much until after they reported earnings, and earnings were a dismal report. So that I think the stock selling off there is more of a function of the earnings than someone actually coming out with some concrete concrete due diligence, right? Same with the Joint, and you sit there and you look, and the Joint was $20-something. Let's see, what was to start the year? Was it 25? It's 2020. I see I don't even have it up here. It was 25.73. It closed 2020 at. So it's still up over 200% for 2021. And, it's a tough one. Succumb to pressure just like all these other momentum names. People are either taking profits or it's the possibility of higher rates coming in the near future. But certainly names I'll revisit. I just was tough. And then take a look at Everbridge. Everbridge was one of my top 5 stocks for 2021. Was doing great, back and forth. Then the CEO suddenly announces leaving the company, and the stock just gets decimated. That's a name. If I hadn't done it as a top pick for 2021, I might do 2022. Some insider buys the previous week. Still a great company. The doubt, I guess, or the concern would be that there's no explanation for the sudden departure of the CEO. And so when you see that, people get concerned and say, yep, we'll put in a wait and see category until we get some clarity there. So that's that. So hopefully I find some for 2022. And, it's tough when you see the S&P up, all-time highs today, and then it's only, 22% or so of the weighting is the FANG stocks, right? You take a look at the NASDAQ 100. It's 20-something% of the NASDAQ 100 is FANG stocks. So how is it's almost like a couple of years, well, not a couple of years ago, but the Dow almost pretty much lost its relevancy, because you would have IBM before it got destroyed, would be like the number one weighting in the Dow, and you're like, wow, IBM pretty much can dictate what people think the market should be at, the valuation, right? It's similar now, so it hides everything else. It push everything under the carpet now, when all the other a lot of these stocks are finding pressure, and the S&P continues to rise, because you have even Tesla, right? So you have Tesla kind of skewing that too. So anyway, I think that's it for now on my rant. Hopefully I can get some of the stocks out before the end of the week, and then I have the webinar on Friday. Hopefully I'll have it out by Friday. If not, it'll probably be Sunday. And that's that, folks. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope Merry Christmas to those celebrate Christmas. Happy holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. And then hopefully, things start to, a little start of the year gets a little stabilization, I guess I would call it, in some of these names that I think are oversold, and we find a bounce in those names. Then I think I can find some more conviction in adding some calls. If not, I continue to look at some of these momentum names. And you take a look at Zscaler, Atlassian, however you pronounce it, Team. Some of these names, Ring, RNG. I didn't even pull that one up recently in the last couple of days. 191. But those are names that's destroyed even on strong earnings reports. ZS is a prime example. I think it was all the way up near $400 after its earnings and just sold off, down to 270 or 280 or so. Team, similar one, huge. I think it's back-to-back huge earnings, all the way up to 483 in October, went all the way down to 330 or so in mid-December. So, not saying that those are signs that they're going to head back there and below, but those are probably the names that if we do get some more weakness, good opportunities to play for puts, because the risk reward is there, because the puts going to be inexpensive. Some of those stocks could sell off 20% on no catalyst. Certainly not priced into the options. All right. I think that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. Rock and roll.